good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're listening, I get whenever you're watching. My name is Willie Lawson, and this is the Weekend Wrap. The Weekend Wrap is a production of FightbackMedia.com, FightbackMedia.com, FightbackMedia.com. We appreciate you being here. We're getting into a crazy time here. This is, of course, a presidential election season, and so it's always wacky. It's always sometimes frightening. And I think this is as wacky and as frightening a season that I've seen since I've been paying attention. And I've been paying attention quite a while. And this is probably the worst. Literally the worst. But we are still here. God is still on the throne, and we are still here. And we will be here tomorrow, and we will be here the next day. You can put the money. You put money in the bank this Friday, so you're believing that we're going to be here. You didn't ask to get paid in animals or food. You got paid in money, and you put that money in the bank, and you accepted your direct deposit. So you too think that you're going to be okay too. In any case, we have a couple of stories, three stories today that I think that are interesting. How about that? Interesting how things are working out. Interesting how things are coming to light finally. And people who are being proven correct, who have been castigated, frankly, as being horrible. But their policies and their statements are actually, it's coming to the point where they were right all along. And some people don't like that at all. So we're going to do those stories. Oh, speaking of those stories, for those of you on YouTube who've watched my apology video to Candace Owens and Blexit, thank you ever so much for watching that. Please understand. Please watch it. I mean, it's only four or 5 minutes. Watch it twice or three times so you can understand what I'm really trying to say. And I appreciate y'all. So we're gonna take a little break. We'll be back right after these messages.
This is your brother, Antone Tucker, better known as Tony X. The reason why you see people outside and upset is because they were led to be that way. The main goal of the liberal today is to make sure that the black feels disenfranchised because they're the ones doing it to you. And they also make sure that your white conservative brothers and sisters feel powerless to talk to you. Black history isn't in the school books. Who do you think started the educational system that is currently brainwashing our children? Jimmy Carter's administration. Why is it that when Obama was in office for 8 years, he didn't get prison reform done? See, I see people saying Trump's racist, but I see that prison reform was done. Over 90,000 black and brown brothers and sisters coming home from prison. I see opportunity zones up and running. Think about it. Black historical colleges, the most funding they've ever had in history, and it came from Donald Trump. For the politicians that think that it's okay to defund police officers, to make sure that the officers within these communities can't do their jobs, shame on you. And as a new leader, I'm going to tell all the leaders coming up, it's time for us to stand up and lead. Thank you for taking the time listening to me. God bless you.
Oh, well, back. Thank you again for spending some time with us on the Weekend Wrap. This story, I'm sorry, it kind of blows my mind, and I'm going to tell you that I did laugh. I did. I absolutely laughed, and I thought that was interesting, and I think a lot of people are going to have to maybe rethink their stance on what the president is talking about when it concerns lockdowns and COVID. This article is actually from news.com, Australia. So you can't come at me with, this is from some right-wing Trump supporting blah 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 blah. This is from Australia, and you people tend to love Australia for some reason. Australia, you know. Let's go ahead and read the article. The article is by, I want to give credit where credit's due. is by Alex Turner Cohen. Thank you, Alex. Alex is a nice lady who writes these articles. I just like the articles written by the ladies. Beth Ballman and the like. Anyway, the World Health Organization has backflipped on its original COVID-19 stance after calling for world leaders to stop lockdowns in their countries and economies. Dr. David Nabarro from the World Health Organization appealed to the world leaders yesterday, telling them to stop using lockdowns as your primary control method of the coronavirus. He also claimed that the only thing lockdowns achieved was poverty, with no mention of the potential lives saved. Now remember, we did all this to save lives. Lockdowns have one consequence that you must never belittle, he says, and that is making poor people an awful lot poorer. We in the World Health Organization do not advocate lockdowns as a primary means of control of this virus, Dr. Nabarro told the Spectre. The only time we believe a lockdown is justified is to buy you time to reorganize, regroup, rebalance your resources, protect your health workers who are exhausted, but by and large, we'd rather not do it. And you have to say that here in the United States, that we have already done that. We regrouped, we rebalanced, we reorganized resources. People aren't doing without resources like they were before. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you, you remember when the whole idea was don't wear masks or save those masks for healthcare workers? Theme parks in America are giving away those masks to people who come and say they don't have any. They're buying them by the tens of thousands and giving them away. Giving them away. Because you have to have one to get your temperature checked. Dr. Nabarro's main criticism of lockdowns involved the global impact, explaining how poorer economies that have been indirectly affected. Just look at what happened to the tourism industry in the Caribbean. For example, or in the Pacific, because people aren't taking their holidays. People aren't going on vacations because fear has locked them in their house, or government has locked them in their house. Look what's happening to smallholder farmers all over the world. Look what's happening to poverty levels. It seems that we may well have doubled the world's poverty by next year. We may well have at least a doubling of child malnutrition. Melbourne's lockdown has been hailed as one of the strictest and longest in the world. In Spain's lockdown in March, people weren't allowed to leave the house unless you had to walk the dog. In China, authorities welded doors to stop people from leaving their homes. The World Health Organization thinks these steps were largely unnecessary. Instead, Dr. Nabarro is advocating for a new approach to containing the virus. Here's what he says. And so, we really do appeal to all the world leaders: stop using lockdowns as your primary control method. Develop better systems for doing it. Work together and learn from each other. His message is timely. In a world first, a number of health experts from all over the world came together, calling for an end to coronavirus lockdowns earlier this week. Last week, I guess. They created a petition called the Great Barrington Declaration, which said that lockdowns were doing irreparable damage. As an infectious disease epidemiologist and public health scientist, we have a grave concern about the damaging physical and mental health impacts of the prevailing COVID-19 policies, and recommend an approach we call focused protection. Read the petition. And when we find the petition, we're actually going to publish that petition on the fightbackmedia.com page so you can read it yourself. Current lockdown policies are producing devastating effects on short and long-term public health. The petition has 12,000 signatures so far. It was authored by, let's see, Suntara Gupta of the University of Oxford, a doctor from Stanford, and Martin Kulldorff from Harvard University. So 2 American doctors authored this petition. When asked about the petition, Nabarro's had only good things to say. Really important point by Professor Gupta, he said. So, here's the 5,000-ton gorilla in the room. Like him, dislike him, love him, hate him, is what Trump's been saying all along. It's what Trump's been saying all along. Maybe not in the way that it was said by these doctors. Or can people just for a second think, maybe, just maybe, it's not nearly as out of touch as you hope he is? We'll just ask him a question. We'll be back after this.
Mr. Bullock, I don't think you answered either one of the questions I asked you. Would you like to?
As far as, do I support Amy Coney Barrett? First, I don't support anybody, any judge getting confirmed literally a week and a half before the election. And second of which, I do think, look, they have been trying to politicize the court every step of the way. And we have to figure out ways to make it less political. So I'm open to that, and that's anything from a Judicial Standards Commission, or we'll look at any other thing that might be suggested, including adding justices.
Thank you. Mr. Dean, your rebuttal.
At least we finally got an answer. I support the nomination and the confirmation of Justice Amy Coney Barrett. Steve Bullock opposes it. Steve Bullock just said he's open to packing the courts. That's a yes. I don't think we should pack the courts. If you want to politicize the courts, for heaven's sakes, you pack them. He just said he's willing to do that. Even Joe Biden won't answer that question right now. Steve Bullock just says he's willing to pack the courts. That should be a chilling, profound moment that has not happened for generations. It's never been packed. As Montanans, that's a threat to our Second Amendment and our very liberty and freedoms that we so cherish and want to have protected here in our great state of.
Well, welcome back. You just saw it. Somebody finally answered the question. It's a question that Joe Biden won't answer. He just won't answer it.
Sir, I've got to ask you about packing the courts. And I know that you said yesterday you aren't going to answer the question until after the election. But this is the number one thing that I've been asked about from viewers in the past couple of days.
Well, you've been asked by the viewers who are probably Republicans who don't want me continuing to talk about what they're doing to the court right now.
Well, sir, don't the voters deserve to know where you stand?
No, they don't. I'm not going to play his game.
You see, even when the left pushed and tried to get President Trump to denounce white supremacy, although he'd already denounced white supremacy 20, 50 times before. And then they ran with the narrative after the first debate that he won't do it. He can do it. Interesting. So when Joe Biden is asked, will you support packing the court? He won't answer it. He even says the American people don't deserve an answer. Well, apparently, Vice President Biden is off script, and we know what happens when the Vice President is off script. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, neighbors, countrymen, if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris win, they will pack the court. And unfortunately, in a way that it was never intended to be, the court and the courts will be our only refuge. They'll be our only recourse. But if the highest courts in the land, if the balance is overturned on purpose, we will not be able to experience the America that our founders had envisioned. We'll not be able to experience the America that you envisioned, that your parents and grandparents envisioned. The glory days will be over. The glory days of America will be over with. And that's just how it is. And you can say it's political. You can say that I'm a Trumper or whatever if you want to. I'm looking at their plans, and what I see is not something I want for my future or the future of my kids or my grandkids. It just isn't what I see as something I want for them. Do you? We'll be back with our last story right after this.
This is your brother, Antone Tucker, better known as Tony X. The reason why you see people outside and upset is because they were led to be that way. The main goal of the liberal today is to make sure that the black feels disenfranchised because they're the ones doing it to you. And they also make sure that your white conservative brothers and sisters feel powerless to talk to you. Black history isn't in the school books. Who do you think started the educational system that is currently brainwashing our children? Jimmy Carter's administration. Why is it that when Obama was in office for 8 years, he didn't get prison reform done? See, I see people saying Trump's racist, but I see that prison reform was done. Over 90,000 black and brown brothers and sisters coming home from prison. I see opportunity zones up and running. Think about it. Black historical colleges, the most funding they've ever had in history, and it came from Donald Trump. For the politicians that think that it's okay to defund police officers, to make sure that the officers within these communities can't do their jobs, shame on you. And as a new leader, I'm going to tell all the leaders coming up, it's time for us to stand up and lead. Thank you for taking the time listening to me. God bless you.
All right, welcome back. We're going to finish up with this story. Actually, it's kind of a double story. You did hear that the FBI thwarted a plan by some insane people to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who's governor of Michigan. And yeah, I mean, that's just craziness. Of course, the media is, because they were in a militia, are dubbing them as right-wing, because that's what they do. When the more of the story comes out, the head of the militia was actually a Trump hater and a Jorgensen supporter, I think. Yeah, hardly a pro-Trumper. I think that what we're seeing is what we talked about in our first story today. People are losing their, you know what. These lockdowns are causing people to just lose their crap. And if you're on the edge in a mental health situation, people are just going bananas. Have you noticed around you, people are just stupid? People are just going bananas. These ridiculous, capricious lockdowns and rules, and people are they're losing it. They are. And a plan to kidnap the governor of Michigan is horrendous. And if this plan is found to be credible, these people who are arrested should spend a very, very long time in prison. A very, very long time in prison. If they are convicted, that's what should happen. I don't want any nonsense from you folks. If these people who planned and conspired to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, they should spend an awfully long time in jail. Awfully long time. How long is that, Willie? I don't know. 50, 60 years. Well, that would be a life sentence. Yeah. All right, now, speaking of crimes, that same governor has decided that Michigan's votes will not be rushed by some artificial deadline. Like November 3rd for her, she says she was on Face the Nation, Deface the Nation, and claims that November 3rd is some sort of artificial deadline. I'll read the story to you. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer on Sunday, today, said that her state will not rush to ensure all the results of the 2020 presidential races are counted on Election Day, November 3rd, a day she appeared to imply was artificially set. Well, that's not true. The date is when the election is in the Constitution. It's not artificially set. The Democratic governor made the comments during an appearance on CBS's Deface the Nation while discussing the election expected surge in mail-in votes amid the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. And what did we just tell you 10 minutes ago? All of this is foolishness and nonsense. It's nonsense. Asked by host Margaret Brennan how long it will take Michigan to declare the winner of the race, Whitmer would not give a definitive time. I don't know. It just depends. Michigan will not announce the results, but we are going to, I can't read, I can't talk. Michigan will not be able to announce results, but we are not going to have artificial deadlines set by, people with political agendas. People in the freaking Constitution? Anyway, Whitmer said, it will be soon after the polls close. I'm not going to put a number on it, but we're going to get it right. Whitmer reminded viewers that they can cast their ballots now, so every day between now and November 3rd in Michigan is Election Day. She added that the more people that vote earlier, the more likely you will be safe and get counted. So if you can vote in person, go vote in person early. So when the polls open here, and I believe they do soon, I'll be voting early and I'll be taking you guys with me. The conversation turned to poll monitoring, with Brennan citing a CBS News poll that found half of the president's voters in Michigan think the president should encourage supporters to go stand near polling places as watchers. Asked whether she thinks there's a possibility of violence on Election Day, Whitmer said she is not worried about that. Her state was fully prepared. There won't be any violence, because the violence hardly ever comes from people on the right, and you know that too. Before I finish the story, when I hear that from people on the left, I always have to go back to my own experiences with the Tea Party. It's so funny. I was talking to somebody, some young lefty, about me going to Tea Party gatherings, and they really asked me if I felt safe there. They asked me that, and I said, safe amongst a whole bunch of grandmas and grandpas? who made up the Tea Party at the time, sitting on beach blankets in a park? Yeah. Yeah. But the media had made Tea Party gatherings the same as Klan rallies. And they were not. And they were not. The only violence I've seen, to be honest, has been initiated by the left. The only violence I've seen has been initiated by the left. Even the likes to fight kids, boys, men, and the Proud Boys are usually a reaction to something that happens on the left. Somebody throws a brick or a bottle or a bottle of frozen urine. Yeah, then it's on. It's all terrible, but that's the reality of it. So, asked whether she thinks there'll be a possibility of violence on Election Day, Whitmer said that she's not worried and that her state was fully prepared. I'm not worried, but we are preparing to make sure that we do everything to keep people safe. Whitmer said, and I've got incredible confidence. I know that the people of Michigan want to vote. We see how the stakes are in this election. We're going to have historic turnout, and we're going to do it right. Whitmer's comments come just days after the FBI revealed a group of anti-government vigilantes had plotted to kidnap her. Whitmer blamed the threat on President Trump for his supposed complicity in giving comfort to those who spread fear and hatred and division. Except all the times he said that he denounces white supremacy, that he denounces hate and bigotry and racism, all those times that he denounced them. That I'm not sure where she's come up with this, but this is the mantra. It seems like I'm getting a little frustrated because I am. It was a familiar move for a governor who's repeatedly engaged in heated public battles with the president that may only hurt him in a pivotal state against Democratic nominee Joe Biden. While she risked politicizing the movement, the governor said Friday that she doesn't think twice about calling out the president. Well, there you go. And people have been saying this, and I'm going to say it to you, but I'm not going to claim it. The president will win a large victory on election night that the left will try their best to chip away at. 1 day, 2 days, 1 week, 2 weeks. But constitutionally, I'm telling you, they're going to run out of time. They're going to run out of time constitutionally. They will not be able to hold that out forever. So we're going to see soon. Our advice here at Fight Back Media: go vote in person. Go on election day. Take a bunch of people with you. Document the event. Document the event. My name is William Lawson. This has been the Weekend Wrap. Until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We'll see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.